Welcome back to the Force. We've been struggling to get hold of our guest, Mr. Bheki Ntshalintshali, the General Secretary of COSATU, to get his views, of course, as there is concern all around about the events that are taking place in our country at the moment. Mr. Ntshalintshali, thank you very much for your time and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mbongeni, and good afternoon to the viewers at home.
Well, shock. In fact, we can run out of words to describe exactly how the collective feeling among South Africans at the moment is. From COSATU, you've been watching, of course, the events unfold. How do you feel?
Devastated, to say the least, and I think it destroys hopes for many people. It's a very, very sad moment, never anticipated to the scale it has taken.
Now, we seeing some positive signs around Gauteng, communities standing up, and now they're starting to clean up. Of course, from yesterday, people got up and said, okay, this has to stop. We're putting our bodies on the line. And today, it's clean-up operations all around in Gauteng. But of course, KZN remains a concern there. What do you think should happen to bring the situation in KZN back to normal?
First, I think it's a call that we're all making to our ordinary people that they need not to be misled to destroy their future and to destroy their livelihood. But secondly, I think the responsibility lies with government. The question of security cluster, the question of the army and the police and all other security agents should on the ground should be visible. Those that are doing criminal activity must be brought to book. There's no other language that you can deal with criminality, is to ensure that law enforcement or law is being enforced. That's the only message you can put it in the immediate, and while you may be addressing some other underlying concerns moving forward.
Now, of course, it's easy to blame the government and criticize the government, and justifiably so in many instances, but there's been criticism as well leveled at leaders, which I would imagine includes yourself as well, because you are a leader of the Tripartite Alliance, that leaders have been absent on the ground, especially in KZN. Leaders should be visible there, talking to the communities there to calm down, calling for calm and so on. Do you take responsibility or do you accept that criticism?
Yes, indeed.
Continue, Mr. Ntshalintshali.
Indeed, in terms of leadership, it has to be shown at all times. But sometimes condition does not allow that leadership to just be plunged to a setup that you do not understand. But we take the responsibility that this is our people who should have given them some advice. But there are many other factors. There's the factors of hunger. There's the factors of being misled. There's a factor that everybody has seen that it was free for all. And in that situation, you need to allow the situation to come and be able to engage. The absence of police, because whatever we do, you can shout to the top of your voices, but you can't talk to thousands and thousands of people if you don't have the backup to give some direction. But indeed, we take the responsibility, all of us, all citizens. This should not have been allowed to happen.
Well, Mr. Ntshalintshali, of course, we're going to go through this at some point. This will be behind us. And then a big challenge will now confront everyone in terms of how do we pick up the pieces as a country, as communities, how do we get jobs back, how do we get the infrastructure back, how do we get people's livelihoods back? Is that a challenge that you are geared for in terms of tackling head-on as part of maybe the social partners at NEDLAC and so on?
I think in our engagement we have identified that there are many areas of engagement, both short-term, immediate, and the question of long-term. There are underlying factors that needed to be addressed. This has been a ticking time bomb. we know that the unemployment, poverty, and inequality is unsustainable. But of immediate one, the question of getting relief to those that need them urgently, the question of getting essential services to people in terms of medication, in terms of fuel, in terms of food sovereignty, are of urgent. They needed to be done as of yesterday, while we may have time to deal with the other issues. The question of the super spread, the lack of vaccination, and the oxygen are issues of urgent attention in our view. So we do have some plans. The question is whether everybody will come on board and be playing its part. We hope so, because this is a lesson that should never be allowed to repeat themselves.
Well, Mr. Ntshalintshali, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time. We apologize for the hiccups earlier on. That's why we leave it. And up next, The Alternative Investor with Nastasia Arendse. Stay with us.